Hey, hey, hey! This recording is designed to help you with Anatomy 202 in Chapter 22. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first part of this lecture, we'll talk about male anatomy, and then towards the end, we'll talk about female anatomy. And I have to admit, this unit, really Chapter 2 and Chapter 23, is one of my favorites. It's just so interesting to talk about reproduction and development. And so let's go ahead and start, but the first practice question you want to consider is describing mitosis and meiosis or meiosis. It can be pronounced either way. Okay, so mitosis versus meiosis. Okay, both of these are cell division. Both of these are cell reproduction. So let's start with mitosis. It is the division of body cells. Okay, another word for body cells is diploid cells. Meiosis is the division of sex cells, or another word for sex cells is gametes. Okay, another, like as far as diploid goes, another word is going to be haploid cells. Okay, so let's start with what do these words mean? They're pretty important, diploid versus haploid. Okay, diploid means that, and maybe jot this in, I don't have room, but diploid means that every single chromosome, there's two of them. Okay, so in every cell, there's one chromosome. If it's a diploid cell, there's two of them. If it's a haploid cell, then there's only one of those chromosomes. Okay, so human cells have either 23 pairs or 46 chromosomes, right? And we'll put an X for chromosomes. Haploid cells only have 23 chromosomes. So think about it like your closet. The diploid cells, there's two dress shoes and two workout shoes and two, pairs of flats and two pairs of heels, whatever. In a haploid cell, there's only one. Now, don't think too difficult. This is not too hard. Why would a sex cell, or another word for sex cell, gamete, only have one set of each chromosome? Why would there not be pairs? Well, hopefully you're thinking, because when I say sex, you're thinking egg and sperm, right? Egg or sperm, whichever one you make. Well, the egg is huge compared to the sperm. And the sperm actually enters into the egg, and that makes your diploid zygote. And so sperm and egg have half the number of chromosomes because they're half of a baby, right? You got to have both of them. And so if you think about it, you got 23 chromosomes from your egg, from your mama, and you got 23 chromosomes from your sperm, your dad, and that's where you got your 23 pairs from. Okay, so keep on writing on yours, but I'm going to erase for a second. Okay, so with meiosis, the chromosomes, you have a diploid cell, so that 2 means diploid. Here is diploid, but it actually divides twice, and it makes 4 haploid cells. Okay, and we're just going to put a little N in there. Okay, so something I want to note. All 4 of these cells, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all different. They're all different because meiosis increases genetic variation. Meiosis increases genetic variation. Write that in under meiosis. It makes difference. My sister and I have the same mom and dad, yet we look different. We act different. And that's because for example, I got this in, and my sister, she got this one. Right? So we got different pairs. I got a different shuffle of my mom's, and she got a different shuffle of my mom's. Same thing with my dad. She got a different shuffle. So she got 23 chromosomes from my mom, but that was a shuffle of my mom's 46. And then same thing with dad. And I did too, but we got different ones. And so write this in. Meiosis increases genetic variation. Okay, let me show you how it does that. When the chromosomes, they actually cross over. And so whenever they go to divide, let me show you what happens. And this is called the crossing over. So write that in, the crossing over. See what happened when they split up? Some of the DNA on the green chromosome is now on the purple, and vice versa. With mitosis, it creates identical cells. Now, not sperm and egg, they don't do that. What kind of cells are body cells? Bone cells, muscle cells, brain cells. Whenever they divide, they create identical clones. No variation. Identical. Okay, so if you were to see that question on your test, you want to know and be able to compare and contrast mitosis and meiosis. Okay, so let's get into some good stuff here. Here is the male reproductive system. Okay, and so when you're looking at this, you can kind of, there we go. We can kind of zoom in a little bit. And we can see, okay, so right here, and I'll draw on it. So right here, these are your testes. That's the green part that I just grew in. And around the testes is a sac called a scrotum. Okay, above the testes, if you'll look here, this is the epididymis. And so you want to know all this for lab, so hopefully you can kind of learn it as we go. That's the epididymis, and the epididymis is where sperm mature at. So when we get there in the notes, we'll highlight that. Okay, and then the sperm travel right here, this pathway. That's called the vas deferens. Vas deferens. And that's what's cut in a vasectomy so that men can't get women pregnant anymore. Okay, so the sperm go around here, right here. Okay, look at this structure right here, this rounded structure. Let's see if I can. There we go. Look at that rounded structure right there. That's the seminal vesicle. And so that helps contribute semen, not necessarily the sperm, but the semen. So then the sperm continue to go on down. This right here is the prostate gland. And then this is your urethra. And the urethra is the exit for semen and urine. So 2 systems, 1 pipe, I guess you could say. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of see how that works. I didn't mention this. This is the bladder where TT is held, right? So we know all about that. Here it is from the front. You got the testes, the epididymis. Epididymis here. Vas deferens, there's your prostate, and your urethra. I did not mention right there that little bitty rounded bulge on either side. That's the bulbourethral gland. There's the word, bulbourethral. So anyway, hopefully you'll be kind of looking at that as we go through. Okay, when do the testes fall? So they're actually in the embryo, in the baby. They're actually up in the abdominal area, and they drop or they fall when the mama is 8. Highlight this: when the mama is 8 months pregnant, in the 8th gestational month. That's when the testes start to descend. So 8 months, testes start to descend, and you can see right here, gubernaculum. Yes, that is a real word, and I know that's hilarious. So gubernaculum, it's connective tissue cord that actually guides the testes into the scrotum it helps them to drop down. 8th month, that's the part you want to know. The scrotum, we already said, that's the sac-like pouch that the testes sit in. So now that you know about a gubernaculum, you can move on. Okay, so this is the structure of the testes, and you can see there's really two types of cells here. There is seminiferous, so I'll highlight that. Seminiferous and interstitial cells. Okay, the seminiferous cells, that's where the sperm is produced. So the sperm is produced in the testes, in the seminiferous tubules. Okay, and in the interstitial cells, that's actually what produces testosterone. So maybe write that in. This is what produces testosterone. And this is what produces the sperm. Okay, so that's pretty good. You got that part. That's in the testes, right? Seminiferous makes sperm. You want to know that sperm is made in the testes. Testosterone is made in those interstitial cells. Now, sometimes the sperm, they fail to drop. Cryptorchidism is what that's called. So write that in somewhere. It don't have to be on this slide, but cryptorchidism. Okay, so write that word in, cryptorchidism. It is the failure of the testes to drop. Testes. So make sure you got that word written in somewhere. Cryptorchidism is failure of the testes to drop, and they can do surgery on them to go into the male and pull them down. However, if it's not surgically fixed, the male will be sterile, and what that means is you can't have children. So sterile, just know that word. Can't have children. They can't reproduce. So if you do have cryptorchidism, there are times, if they don't drop, they can be surgically fixed, but if they're not fixed, then the male won't be able to have children. Okay, next slide. Oh, there's our testes. Okay, and this shows spermatogenesis. Genesis, beginning. This is just a word that means making sperm cells. And how do we do that? With meiosis. We make sperm cells and egg cells with meiosis. And for future, we'll talk about it, but to make egg cells is not called spermatogenesis, it's called oogenesis, O-O. Okay, so spermatogenesis, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 little spermies ready to be daddies. So they could develop into a baby. Any of those 4, if they fertilize an egg, they could become a baby. But I will tell you something interesting. In females, for whatever reason, only one of them is good. The others are so small, they're not good enough. They're called polar bodies. So they can't develop. Only one egg. So 4 sperm are made, but only one egg. Another interesting fact, males start making sperm in their seminiferous tubules in the testes, right? They start making sperm when they hit puberty. I don't know, when you hit puberty, like 12 maybe, something like that. Whenever guys hit puberty. And they make sperm for the rest of their life. Men can make good, viable, baby-making sperm when they're 80. Okay? Women are not like that. Women are, the eggs are up in their ovaries, and they're born with all the eggs they're ever going to make. They don't make any more. So women, you're not making any more eggs. Males, however, they're making sperm all the time. And so that's why whenever you think about having children, the woman's age is important. You hear over the age of 35 and you're high risk for certain birth defects. Nobody ever cares how old the man is because those sperm were made that day, while the eggs were made before the girl was born. So that's kind of interesting. Off topic, but interesting. So if you look at this, just like we drew, starts out diploid, makes 4 haploid sperm that are all viable. Only one egg that's viable. Maybe jot that down, you might see it again. Okay, 4 sperm, 1 egg. And when the little spermies are made, look at them. Just look how cute they are, I guess. There we go. At the end, a sperm can survive anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. So 24 to 48 hours survival. And then if you look at the sperm, there's one. Let's kind of talk about that for a second. The tip of it, that's called the acrosome. And so within the head, the nucleus, the tip called acrosome, it has enzymes in it to help penetrate the egg. So in the very end of it, over here, in the acrosome, there's enzymes that help it penetrate through acrosome. To help it penetrate through. The mid piece right here, that's where the mitochondria is. That's where the energy is. Right? I know you all think the mitochondria you learned in high school is the powerhouse, right? So that's where the energy is coming from. Okay, so let's flash back and look right here. Remember we talked about this? This is where the crossing over is. Crossing over happens in meiosis. Crossing over happens in meiosis, and we already know meiosis, crossing over, genetic variation increases genetic variation. So we got that all covered. Okay, there's your crossing over again. And we said right there it says the genetic information in sperm cells and egg cell varies. It's different. That's why my sister and I are so different. Okay, looking at the male. First we're going to talk about the epididymis. Then we're going to talk about the vas deferens, seminal vesicles. That's the angry bird eyes, I guess. The prostate gland, which is this right here. And the bulbourethral glands right there. So look, we're going to talk about all those separately. You want to know the function of them. And you'll be able to do that for the lab exam. So you'll actually want to know how to find all of these boogers for the lab exam. Okay, epididymis is first. Tightly coiled tube, that's that thing that was on the top, connected to ducts within testes, that's what you want to highlight, promotes maturation of sperm cells. So basically this connects to the bladder from the seminiferal tubules in the testes, and it lets the sperm, the mature sperm, it's going to go up the vas deferens, so it's going to connect. That's where the sperm mature at. Okay, vas deferens, you already saw it in the picture. Muscular tube, about 45 centimeters long, extends from the epididymis all the way up towards the bladder to the ejaculatory duct. Okay, two things I want you to know about this. One, this is cut. It's actually cut and the ends are burned off. But we'll say cut and tied during the vasectomy. Okay, what is a vasectomy? That is where they go in and they cut the vas deferens. They burn either end so that the man is no longer fertile. So that he still has an erection, still has sex, still has orgasm, still has semen. None of that is any different. The only thing that's different is in the semen, there are no sperm. There's more to semen than just sperm. So in the semen, there's no sperm. Okay, second thing I want you to know about the vas deferentiae or the vas deferens, that is also where sperm mature at. So the spermies are still maturing. Okay, seminal vesicles, that's this part up here. You can see them right here. There's the eyes to the angry bird, right? Okay, attached to the vas deferens near the base of the bladder, they secrete an alkaline fluid. Sperm are acidic. They're going to make the sperm more basic. They also secrete a sugar so that the sperm have nutrients. They have sugar, fructose, right? The contents empty into the ejaculatory duct. So as soon as the alkaline fluid and the sugar and the sperm get there, they empty out into the bottom of it. But don't they look like eyes of an angry bird to you? Okay, the urethra, they're just going to excrete out the urethra. But it's got to be alkaline because pH of sperm is acidic. Okay, next we've got the prostate gland. What is the prostate gland? Highlight this. Surrounds proximal portion of urethra. But it's right here, look. That rounded part underneath there. Ducts of glands open into the urethra. Secrete thin, milky, again, alkaline fluid. Secretion enhances how fast the spermies can swim. Mobility. Composed of tubular glands and connective tissue. It also has muscle. But I've got written in on my paper structure that surrounds proximal urethra in the male. So make sure you got that. But look at the picture right here. If the prostate were to swell up or enlarge, what would happen? Well, it's going to push on the bladder, and so men have to go to the bathroom, and that's what this next thing is. If the prostate enlarges, benign prostate hypertrophy, it gets bigger, benign, not cancerous. What's going to happen is it's going to make the man have to go TT, get up in the middle of the night, have to go to the bathroom. More frequently, they have to go to the restroom. So that's prostate enlargement. Okay, the bulbourethral gland, highlight this. It is inferior to the prostate gland. So it's just below. It's right here. Secretes snot. Secretes a mucus-like, snotty fluid released in response to sexual stimulation. So when the man gets stimulated, we'll say, it secretes this snotty-like substance. Now, we already said there's more to semen than just sperm, right? Well, there's sperm. Now, what else is there? This is what there is. Secretions of the seminal vesicle, the prostate gland, and the snotty bulbourethral gland is slightly alkaline. It has a pH of about, write this in, 7.5. pH of about 7.5 is slightly alkaline. And I want you to write this in. Sperm is negative feedback, and it's on a slide later, but let's write it in anyway. Negative feedback, and we know what that is already. When all the sperm is gone, they make more. When they have a lot, they need to release it, so then they make more. So it's a negative feedback process. But you want to know what's in semen. So go ahead and write that out. What's in there? Sperm, those secretions. So go ahead, if you need to look back at the last slide. It's alkaline. The prostaglandins, they're hormone-like substances. So they're kind of like hormones. Nutrients, that fructose is the nutrients. And about 120 million sperm, probably maybe up to 90 million could be good sperm. The rest of them may be rejects. Okay, next part, male. So this is just talking more about a little bit. We're going to focus on the scrotum and the penis next. Scrotum is the sac. The penis, well, we know what that is. Okay, we already said the scrotum is that wrinkly sac. Yeah, I say wrinkly. That's what the book says too. Wrinkly sac around the testes. Okay, so highlight pouch of skin and subcutaneous tissue. Okay, the dartos muscle, highlight that. Dartos muscle, that's what makes it wrinkly. So that it muscles up, it flexes, and that's what makes it wrinkly. It is divided, so they don't switch back and forth. For the girls, we don't know about that. Anyway, they are divided, so you can't switch them back and forth. You don't have to highlight that though. Each chamber has a little bit of slippery, slimy layer. Each chamber houses a testes and epididymis. And we already talked about, we got the dartos muscle, which makes it shrivel up. And we've already written in cryptorchidism. That's where they fail to drop. Remember, gubernaculum is the tissue that helps them drop. I just like that word. Okay, penis. What does it do? In case you wondered, it conveys the urine and semen, lets it out, but is specialized to become erect for insertion into the vagina in the event that you had forgotten. Okay, the urethra, it lets out, you want to know this, write it in, urine and semen. The urethra, which is the tunnel, it's called the same thing in females. Urine and semen. Urinary system and reproductive system. Okay, so there's the penis, all nice and penis-like. I don't guess there's anything I won't point out there. I will point this out. The corpus spinosum right here. That's a tissue that surrounds the urethra. Okay, corpus spinosum surrounds the urethra. And I'm sure you've maybe know this about circumcising. Most non-Jewish people are circumcised at birth. Okay, good stuff right here. When there's an erection, let me highlight erection. Okay, the blood vessels are actually relaxed. They are dilated so that blood can flow to the penis. Orgasm is sexual stimulation, and then ejaculation is the emission. How does all this happen? Well, it's controlled by the nervous system. Isn't everything? Parasympathetic, that's relax. Okay, you want to know this. The parasympathetic releases nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is what comes from the brain, and it makes the blood vessels open up, vasodilator, right? Vasodilator, and open up, let blood flow. So blood's flow into the penis so that it can be erect. Okay, and here all that is in a nice table so that you'll be able to see it nicely, organized. Okay, how does this happen for males? What's all going on? Well, this is controlled in the, highlight this, hypothalamus. The hypothalamus controls when to make sperm. We already wrote in, it's negative feedback. Hypothalamus says make more. Okay, we got some, we need to release it. Make more, release. So it's all negative feedback. Remember what negative feedback is? It's homeostasis. It's finding that balance. Okay, testosterone. You want to know, I think we already wrote it in, but they're made in the interstitial cells of the testes. Now, I guess it says that on the slide, but what does testosterone do? Body hair, sometimes decreased growth on the hair, on the scalp. Bummer, sorry guys. Enlargement of the voice box, the larynx, so they have a deeper voice. The vocal cords are actually thicker. Their skin is thicker. They have more muscles. Let them open the jar of pickles that you can. Thickening and strengthening of bones. But make sure you've written in interstitial cells make testosterone. Interstitial cells make testosterone. There you go. Wrote it for you. Interstitial cells actually make the testosterone. Okay. List 3 actions of testosterone. Here's what I want you to list. Body hair. Thick vocal cords, so deep voice. You could write thick larynx if that's what you want to write. Body hair. Enlargement of the larynx or thickening of the vocal cords. Either one of those is good. And then we'll say increased muscular growth. So that's 3 actions of testosterone. All right, now we get to talk about girls. I hate to say it, but girls are more complicated. In every way, we are just more complicated. I hate to say it. Okay. Look at this for just a second. Let's kind of zoom in and look at some stuff. Okay, so you'll see here that here's the vaginal tract or vagina. It's the passageway in. Some things you already know. That this right here is the cervix. So the cervix is inferior opening of the uterus. So here's your uterus. The bottom of the uterus, the top of the vaginal canal, is called the cervix. Okay, here is the bladder. Right, here's the bladder. There's the urethra. That's the anus. That'd be the sigmoid colon, right? Rectum, and then sigmoid colon right there. Oh, your ovaries. How important must they be? There's your ovaries. Okay, so just a couple slides. I want to point out oogenesis. That's the beginning of eggs. Oo means eggs. And you want to know the difference, and that's your next short answer. But the difference is that oogenesis, there's only one viable egg. Only one that could become a baby. In the spermatogenesis, there were 4. So it's still diploid cell makes haploid cells, but only one is going to be able to become an egg, while in the other one it was 4 sperm. You also want to note that sperm are created after males go through puberty for the rest of their life. Oogenesis, however, the creation of eggs, happens before birth, so before the girl is even born. Okay, so then the follicle has to mature, and that's what makes the egg drop, actually. Okay, ovulation. Let's talk about that. So after the egg has matured, where there's high levels of LH, you remember from chapter 13 or the endocrine system, high levels of LH would make ovulation occur. So write that in, high levels of LH, luteinizing hormone, if you'll remember that's what that's called. Female internal accessory organs. You can see, look at the picture. The uterine tube, that's, if you looked at it, kind of a comical drawing here. You got your 2 ovaries, connect to the uterus. This little tube right there, the yellow one now, that's the uterine tubes. They're commonly called fallopian tubes. You got your uterus, and then you have the vagina. And so when you look at that, you ought to look at that pretty good for lab tests. Okay, so uterine tube, you can see the ovaries on either side, the fallopian tube or uterine tube. You want to know this is where fertilization occurs. It conveys the egg towards the uterus, yes, but the sperm has to travel up the vagina. Now the purple is the sperm. Up, through the cervix. Up, through the cervix. Up. All the way here. Fertilization occurs in the uterine tube. Write that in. Fertilization occurs in the uterine tube. Now, what is the uterus? There's what lining of the uterine tube. Uterine wall, nice. Some people have, I will say, some people have endometriosis, and that's where they make abnormal. Let's write that in. Okay, endometriosis, uterine lining growing in areas outside the uterus. Okay, so endometriosis is the uterine lining growing in areas outside the uterus. If y'all hear that noise in the background, it's my dog crying. She had knee surgery. She cries a lot just this week. But this is where the fetus should implant. it should implant into the uterine wall. And so if it doesn't, if it doesn't, we call that an ectopic pregnancy. So write both of those things in. If the fetus doesn't implant into the uterus, it's ectopic. But what is the uterine wall? It's a thick wall. It produces estrogen and progesterone. I think that's on the next slide. Hollow muscular organ that receives the embryo. So the implantation happens there. So make sure you got that. Fertilization is in the uterine tube or fallopian tube. Implantation is in the uterine wall. Okay, so we'll see all that there. Okay, next we have the vagina, fibromuscular tube that conveys uterine secretions, receives the penis during intercourse in the event that you were confused about that, and is an open channel for the baby. That's what you want to know. The vagina is all of those things, but the thing you want to know for sure is that it's the birth canal. Right? It's the birth canal. Okay, so there is a nice table organized with the female organs and functions. Okay, erection, lubrication, and orgasm. The vagina actually does expand and elongate, so that's kind of neat. Okay, estrogen inhibits LH and FSH during most of the reproductive cycles. But let's review real quick. Follic stimulating hormone, what does that do? That gets the egg ready to drop, makes the egg mature. LH, luteinizing hormone, what does that do? That makes the egg drop. So that is ovulation. LH makes ovulation happen. FSH makes the egg get ready to ovulate. But what does our estrogen do? Our testosterone for females is estrogen. It's development of, what does it do? It's development of breast and mammary glands. It does make us have more fat, more adipose tissue. That's what the problem is, girls. It's the estrogen. And it does increase the vascularization of the skin, so blood flowing, we may bruise easier. Here's the steps of the reproductive cycle. Kind of tells you anterior pituitary. Again, chapter 13. Release follic stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Tells what they do. Follic gets the egg ready. Remember LH, number 4, ovulation. Okay, so you'll see here, you see the FSH spike. The LH spike right at ovulation, day 14. That's when the egg drops into the oviduct, the fallopian tube. Remember, fertilization happens there. So that's when the female can get pregnant. Now look at the estrogen. It spikes just before ovulation. The progesterone spikes after. Progesterone, if you'll look over here, when the progesterone drops, that's when the period is about to start. Look at this down here is the uterine wall. The uterine wall is nice and fluffy for the embryo. And then all of a sudden it falls out. And that would be the menstrual cycle when the uterine wall falls out. Okay, so the HCG, we haven't talked about that yet. HCG, that's the hormone detected during pregnancy. It's the urine test. When you take a pregnancy test, like from the Walmart or Walgreens or whatever, HCG is produced, and that's how you know you're pregnant. FSH and LH are inhibited during pregnancy. They're not made. However, look back at this picture, you'll see the progesterone. See how it's up high? If you're pregnant, it never drops. Its progesterone stays high the whole time you're pregnant. So the estrogen and progesterone stay pretty high, but the FSH and LH are not released during pregnancy. Okay, oxytocin is released if you remember oxytocin, that's the hormone where it is positive feedback. Oxytocin, positive feedback, that's what makes the uterus contract to have the baby. So oxytocin, prolactin, that's the hormone for breast milk. Aldosterone, that is the hormone that makes water retention, that's swelling during pregnancy. So swelling because of aldosterone. So those are the hormones involved. HCG, that's the pregnancy test. FSH and LH are inhibited. Prolactin, breast milk. Oxytocin, uterine contractions. Aldosterone increases because of, what causes fluid swelling. Menopause. When does it happen? When you're 40 or 50, late 40s, early 50s. And it's when all the eggs, there's no more eggs to drop, or the eggs are all dried up. So you don't have a period anymore. I've heard it's horrible. You have grumpy, heat flashes, hot flashes. Ovaries no longer produce as much estrogen. Estrogen may produce hot flashes. There we go. Hormone therapy maybe so that the bones stay strong, because after there's no more estrogen and progesterone being produced, the bones may become fragile. Menopause complete after 12 months. No menstrual cycle after that. Okay, mammary glands. They're in your breast. They make milk. Not much else to say, right? That's it. Okay. The birth canal. This is, we talked about the vagina and it being the birth canal. Oh, but that slide says birth control. Sorry. Okay, birth control. What are your options? Here's your options for birth control. Coitus interruptus is probably a pretty popular. That would be where the male removes his penis before the semen comes out. So the pull out, I guess we'll call it. Anyway, rhythm method. That would be where you're trying to avoid when you ovulate. So you, female, you know that you ovulate 14 days before you start your period. So that on the 14th day and the one day after that, so 13 days before you start your menstrual cycle, you could get pregnant. Don't have sex then. However, we're all a little different. So you should, if you're going that route, you should probably give 3 or 4 days, even though it's really 1 or 2. Okay, we know about mechanical barriers. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Chemical barriers, a spermicide, a foam you can inject into you before or after intercourse. Oral contraceptives, it's either an estrogen or a progesterone, or maybe it's both. So there's just estrogen, just progesterone, or both. And there you take them orally. Injectable contraceptions, so injections, intrauterine devices. The IUDs, those are put in by a gynecologist, and they prevent, I think the last time someone told me about one, they prevent pregnancy for 5 years. And IUDs prevent the sperm and the egg may be fertilized, but they prevent the sperm and egg from implanting into the uterine wall. Surgical methods, vasectomy, that's where they cut the vas deferens. Tubal ligation, that's where they go in and cut the fallopian tube, so there's never any ovulation that a sperm could reach. So those are your choices. I will say one thing I know, abstinence, not having sex, 100% effective, right? All these are not 100%, but if you don't have sex, 100%. So this is just kind of showing you the surgical methods. On the left, you'll see a vasectomy, cutting that vas deferens. On the right, you'll see a tubal ligation, cutting the ovducts, or ovduct, uterine tube, fallopian tube. All those words are the same. Okay, let's talk about some sexually transmitted diseases. And if you take micro, we'll talk all about them, the fun ones, right? But there's different kinds. Herpes causes outbreaks and blisters, while syphilis has no side effects in the genital area. All the side effects are neurological, so it actually affects the brain. So silent infections, most are bacterial, and they can be cured. Herpes, warts, and AIDS are viral, cannot be cured. Herpes, warts, and AIDS, those three are not cured. Some of them may cause infertility or make you sterile. AIDS can cause death. But now with all the medications for AIDS and how if you take them well and how much we know, you can live a long, healthy life with AIDS. Symptoms of STDs can include the below, right? Take micro and we'll talk specifics. All right, I think that's it. So I hope that was helpful. Please don't hesitate to email me if you have any questions.